Or do you have an app for your email, like Outlook or Windows Live Mail or?
I guess it would be webmail. Yeah.
Webmail. So that would be somewhere in your email cache. No, I'm sorry, your web cache.
That should be in your web cache. You might try cleaning out your web cache.
Okay.
And sometimes the automatic cache clean button. So like, in Chrome or Firefox, there's an empty cache. Sometimes it doesn't get it all.
Okay.
And then you have to manually find the cache folder and delete it, which is tricky
Annoying.
too.
But I would start with the things Dave was talking about. Do Steve was talking about. Do the tree-free, tree size. And,
as administrator, is the trick with tree size.
As administrator.
Okay.
And take a look at other stuff. Now the other thing it could be, and this is very unlikely, but it could be that your machine has been captured as part of a botnet, and therefore, right?
That happened to a friend of mine. He made a test account to play with something, and the username was test, and the password was test, and he forgot about it. And then a week later, he found 10 gigabytes of illegal movies on his computer.
Yep, being served to somebody else through his system.
Or it's so many possibilities. Your hard drive could be dying, and the space is being lost due to bad blocks that are being removed from use by the operating system.
But you would see the size of the drive. Yeah,
well, he might not have looked.
That's
do a properties on your drive and see how big it thinks it is anymore.
Right.
Okay. All right, that's good stuff. I'll take it and run with it. Thanks for your time.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
We see that a lot on tablets and the iPads that our customers will bring to us. It's full because they got pictures on their email or messages. Someone messaged you a picture, you save it in your pictures folder. You now have 2 copies of it.
Right. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Back in just a couple of minutes with Steve Ray, Michael Oden, me, Nick Francesco, and you. 43 minutes after the hour. Sound Bytes, member-supported Jazz 90.1.
It's America's longest-running computer show. Back to more Sound Bytes with Nick, Dave, and Steve. Next on member-supported Jazz 90.1.
Why not let your favorite radio station treat you to 2-for-1 dining opportunities throughout the Rochester area? Make a pledge of $90, 10 cents or more, and you'll receive the Jazz 90.1 Enhanced Member Card. Good for the duration of your membership, and very good for 2-for-1 dining incentives in dozens of restaurants. Go on, give in to dining out and celebrate with a 2-for-1 steak dinner, sushi, or even Italian on us, Jazz 90.1, with more of the food that feeds your ears every day. Call 966-5299 or go online to jazz901.org and pledge $90 and 10 cents or more to member-supported Jazz 90.1.
The NLS Braille and Audio Reading Download Service gives patrons with visual impairments or physical limitations the freedom to read their way.
Bard is this beautiful web-based program for searching for books and for the ability to download them.
It's a great way to have a book with you without carrying a book.
For information about the National Library Service for the Blind and Physically Handicapped Library of Congress, visit loc.gov/thatallmayread.
Hi, I'm Linda Wildman. Join me Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on member-supported Jazz 90.1.
Follow Jazz 90.1 on Instagram at WGMC Jazz 901.
I missed a mortgage payment, but now I'm turning things around. With Sam, I can.
Sam is Smart About Money, a free online resource from the National Endowment for Financial Education. We're an independent nonprofit foundation dedicated to helping people just like you get sound information about money at samican.org.
Business has fallen off at work, but I'm getting prepared for whatever the future holds. With Sam, I can.
Get empowered. Reach your financial goals. Visit samican.org.
This is Rob Linton, station manager of Jazz 90.1. Annual membership contributions and business underwriting keep our programming on the air. The future growth and excellence of our station depends on our ability to also build a permanent base of support through an active and successful legacy gift program. Please continue your gift past a lifetime by including Jazz 90.1 in your will, trust, or general estate plans, and join us in building a legacy of giving to support public jazz radio in Rochester. For more information on planned giving, you may visit jazz901.org or call us at 966-2660. Thank you.
And now, a check of your Jazz 90.1 weather forecast.
Windy and sharply cooler across Rochester, Western New York, and the Finger Lakes for the day today with changeable amounts of clouds and sunshine. The high temperature into the middle and upper 60s over the Bristol Hills, close to the 70 in Rochester. As we head through the night tonight, the sky clearing, and it turns quite cool into the upper 40s in some valleys, low 50s in town. Sunshine warming up with less wind on Monday, highs in the upper 70s. I'm meteorologist Josh Nichols for Jazz 90.1.
And it is 75 degrees at the Greater Rochester International Airport, 76 here in Greece at member-supported Jazz 90.1.
Hi, this is Jan Niffler. I hope you'll join me this and every Friday night from 6 to 9 p.m. here on Jazz 90.1.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Nick Francesco.
I'm Steve Ray.
And I'm Michael Oden.
And at 47 minutes after the hour, we are Soundbites, and you can join us. Give us a call at 585-966-JAZZ. That's 966-5299. Or toll free at 1-800-790-0415. Now, I alluded earlier to talk about the FCC. We actually talked about the FCC and local communities. We talked a little bit about that. On Tuesday, Representative Ann Eshoo, a Democrat of California, proposed legislation that will allow cities and towns to build their own internet services, even in states that have laws restricting municipal broadband. Eshoo's Community Broadband Act of 2016 comes a month after the states of North Carolina and Tennessee won a federal appeals court ruling preserving laws preventing municipal broadband providers from expanding outside their territories. The Federal Communications Commission has tried to overturn the laws, which remain in place in about 20 states. I'm disappointed that a recent court ruling blocked the FCC's efforts to allow local communities to decide for themselves how best to ensure that their residents have broadband access, Eshoo said in an announcement. Rather than restricting local communities in need of broadband, we should be empowering them to make the decisions they determine are in the best interests of their constituents. Too many Americans still lack access to quality, affordable broadband, and community broadband projects are an important way to bring this critical service to more citizens. Eshoo said that powerful special interests in state capitals, generally ISPs who lobby against municipal broadband, have played a big role in denying communities the ability to make their own telecommunications decisions. Eshoo said she modeled her bill after one introduced by Senators Frank Lautenberg, Democrat of New Jersey, and John McCain, Republican of Arizona, in 2005. Eshoo's Community Broadband Act says that states may not prohibit any public provider from providing advanced telecommunications capability to any person or any public or private entity. The Eshoo bill would also protect private ISPs from discriminatory regulations. Local governments that offer their own internet service would not be allowed to make rules that favor the public broadband service over private ones. The bill probably doesn't have much chance of passing as long as both chambers of Congress are controlled by Republicans, but it shows that the battle over municipal broadband is not over despite the FCC's loss in court. So, do you think cities should be able to build their own internet services? Give us a call, 585-966-JAZZ. That's 966-5299. Toll free 1-800-790-0415.
We've seen several cities around the country where the city has tried to put their own municipal wireless in, not wireless, Wi-Fi, and the local internet providers, Comcast, have sued the city to stop it for restraint of trade. You know, if the city sells you Wi-Fi, you may not buy it from us.
Somebody's hurting our profits. We must destroy them immediately.
Exactly.
Competition should be good.
You would think so.
Well, no, it's good for consumers, but it drives the prices down for companies.
Right.
Which is bad.
Right. Right. Bad for them.
Bad for them. Yep.
Right. All right. Back to the phones. Our next caller is Don from Greece, New York. Hi, Don. What's up?
Why, good afternoon, gentlemen. Windows 7. Trying to do the Windows update. It's a computer that hasn't been turned on for like a year. I do Windows update, and it's been sitting here since like 8 o'clock this morning, checking for updates.
Yes. You have to run the update for Windows Update before Windows Update can update. There is a change. Microsoft changed the way Windows Update works, and so if you have an old computer that didn't have the Windows Update, it can't get to Windows Update. I have a link I am looking for here. So the first thing you have to do is manually download Windows Update, the new version of Windows Update. Then Windows Update will work.
Really?
And I am posting the link. So this link, updated September 13th at Microsoft. So there's 2 different KB numbers depending on which version of Windows you're running. And so once you get the new version of Windows Update loaded, then Windows Update will be able to find the
update,
the rest of the updates. So this goes back. It's one of the annoyances we've had with Windows for years. You install Windows 7 fresh from disk, then there's 104 updates, and you restart, and then there's 117 updates, and then you restart. But that doesn't work anymore because they changed the way Windows Update works. They did release an update to Windows Update, but you have to have already had those updates installed.
Okay, well, that explains why it's just been sitting here doing nothing, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, you did a post.
I'm posting that link now.
That?
Yes.
It'll be up in just a couple of minutes.
Very good. Keep up the good work, gentlemen.
Thank you, Don.
All right, have a good one.
You too.
And of course, we like the alliteration. You have to update Windows Update before Update can update.
Right. It's a tricky situation. But what happened, of course, was that Windows 10 came along. And the way Windows 10 does things is different from the way Windows 7 does things. And so they had to make a change in the way Windows 7 does things before we could get Windows 10 to do things. Okay.
Yeah, they're actually changing the way they're going to start rolling out updates for Windows 7, 8.1, and 10. They're moving to the 10 model. So normally, like I just said, you install Windows 7 and there's 104 updates. Now, what they're going to do, I think starting in October, they're going to bundle all the updates together into one file.
Right.
And then in November, they're going to add more updates into that one file. So if you skip October, you can install November and you get all of October's updates. So you don't have to update and then update and then update and then update. So they're in essence bundling all the updates together into a single file. So it doesn't matter when you install it, you get them all. You should install them all anyway.
Right.
But for like the previous callers, computer hasn't been turned on in a year. There's hundreds of updates waiting that it would have to download individually. So there's advantages to doing that. No matter when you check for updates, you're going to get them all. It does mean that each update is going to be bigger and use more of your broadband and run into your data cap.
Right, exactly.
See how everything's related?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right, back to the phones. Our next caller is Larry from Webster, New York. Larry, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
I'm an illiterate computer user. On my unit, instead of hitting restore, I went for recovery and I wiped out all my goodies. So I went to Revo and I found the files that I really needed, but when I went to get them, it said that they were corrupted.
Yep, they were replaced by the recovery you did.
Okay, is there any way that I can possibly get them back, salvage them?
Not that I've ever heard of. Once you've overwritten them, which is what you did with recovery.
Restore, restore from your backup is the usual way to do it.
Right, unless you have a backup, there's nothing that can be done. I'm sorry.
Of course I didn't take them out.
Of course you didn't. But you will from now on.
There are some forensic companies that might be able to recover the deleted files even after they've been overwritten, but it's not cheap. Several $1,000s we typically see.
They're not that good.
Yeah, that's what we usually hear.
Not that yeah. It's cheaper to back up.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
sorry.
Guys, thank you.
Yep. Sorry.
Well, fine.
So everyone, right now, while you're listening to the show, and don't pay attention to your computer, run your backup program. Get a $100 external USB hard drive, very cheap. Plug it in, run your backup. If you're running a home business, you should have several backups, and they should at least one should be outside your home.
There are so many free and inexpensive cloud storage places nowadays that there is no excuse for not backing up to the cloud, as well as an external device on your network, not on your computer, on your network.
Which also is handy if you have multiple computers. You back them all up to that one network device.
Right. So I have a 3 gig drive that my wife and I both back up to automatically. every day. So in addition to other things, but it's on the network, so we can both reach it. We each have our own individual place on the network that we store things, so we're not overwriting each other, essentially 2 different folders. And the way this particular one works, I can't see her stuff, she can't see my stuff. But that wasn't a requirement for us, but it's the way that one works out. But they're easy to set up. In general, you just attach them to the network and you're most of the way done. Now you just have to run maybe a little utility on your computer to connect to it. But once you've done that, you're done, and everything is working and everything is up and running. And then your automatic backup program, of which we've talked about a dozen on this show, will be able to back up on that system, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. I recently lost my desktop machine. It was gone. I got up one morning and it was off, and I tried to turn it on and it would not turn on again. And I changed the power supply, but the power supply was good. It was the hard drive that was just dead. So there was no retrieving anything from it. And in point of fact, everything had backed up. So except for one file that I'd been working on the day before, because I tend to back up at 3 a.m. and the computer apparently died before 3 a.m.
And we hear from a lot of people that say, oh yeah, I drag my files onto a flash drive. Well, when was the last time you did that? Oh, about 6 months ago. Okay, you've just lost 6 months worth of data. You should have an automatic backup program that does it by itself, so you don't have to remember to do it. You don't have to remember what files you changed. It does it for you. There's a commercial backup service called Crash Plan. And most of the online backup services are in the $5 a month range, so they're pretty inexpensive. But Crash Plan has a neat option where you can back up to a friend's computer on the internet and let them back up to your computer. So you hang that hard drive on your computer or your network, and then you have an offsite backup because it's at your friend's house. Everything is encrypted, so they couldn't get into it if they wanted to. But generally, you want it to be a friend you trust.
You're right.
But yeah, so you have a free offsite cloud backup stored on someone else's computer, which is basically what the cloud is, just someone else's computer. But that gets it offsite. So a lot of people will have the backup hard drive next to their computer. And if there's a fire, flood, theft, you lose your computer and your hard drive. So having something offsite in another building, detached garage even, lets you have that peace of mind, especially, as I mentioned earlier, with home businesses. So many people are running home businesses these days, and your entire business runs on that computer. You should have some backups, and probably even a backup computer, and including a backup drive.
Exactly. You can't have too many backups. All right, that's it for this hour. You've wasted an hour of your life with this nonsense, but we're going to give you the opportunity to do it again. So we're going to take a slightly longer break, but we'll be back with a whole nother hour of the longest running computer show in the known universe, with Steve Ray, Michael Oden, me, Nick Francesco, and you hurtling headlong into our 28th year on the air, and with sound bites on the truly great and solely member supported Jazz 90.1.
Computer talk you can understand. More Sound Bites is next on member-supported Jazz 90.1.
WGMC Greece Rochester.
A public service of the Greece Central School District.
Jazz 90.1.
On Facebook at Jazz 901 FM.
A 5K charity race canceled in New Jersey as the FBI and Department of Homeland Security investigate a pipe bomb explosion this morning in Seaside Heights. About 5,000 people were set to run in the third annual Marine Semper Fi race. No injuries reported. Philadelphia police say a note expressing hatred toward law enforcement was found after a man attacked a police officer and went on a shooting rampage that left one woman dead, 4 people wounded. The suspect shot and killed by police, as Nick Valencia reports.
We know very little about the suspect, but police are confident that this was an ambush in Philadelphia.
President Obama calling on Republicans to get serious and get some work done before they go back on break.
The Republicans who run this Congress aren't doing their jobs. And guess what? Congress recently returned from a 7-week vacation, and they've only got 2 weeks left until their next one.
Unfinished work includes a budget, funding to fight the Zika virus, and allocation of resources to help the people of Flint, Michigan with water, and flood victims in Louisiana. I'm Michael Toscano.
Don't ignore facial redness or what you might think is a sunburn that just won't go away. It could be an early warning sign of a common facial disorder called rosacea. 16 million Americans have rosacea, and its top trigger is the sun. Learn the warning signs: facial redness, bumps and pimples, visible blood vessels, even irritated eyes. If you experience any one of these signs, see a dermatologist for diagnosis and treatment, or visit the National Rosacea Society at rosacea.org.
Great wine, live jazz, beautiful art, and delicious food. It's all part of the annual Jazz 90.1 Evening of Wine, Jazz, and Art, presented by Greece Community Broadcasting Incorporated on Thursday, October 6th at Artisan Works. Come enjoy this gala fundraising event to benefit Jazz 90.1. Tickets are on sale now and can be purchased by calling 966-2660 or online at www.jazz901.org.
I found a new baby. I found a new spoon.
What's small, pretty, and worth lots of money? It's the Jazz 90.1 Enhanced Member Card, and now it's worth more than ever with the addition of 35 wineries to the list of restaurants, stores, and other businesses in the Rochester area, discounting prices exclusively to members of Jazz 90.1. You can even use your card when you travel in the U.S. It's a great way to reward yourself, all while supporting Jazz 90.1. Don't have a Jazz 90.1 member card? Well, get one by making a pledge of support at the $90 10-cent level or above to Jazz 90.1. For more information on becoming a member, call 966-5299 or pledge online at jazz901.org.
Welcome back to America's longest-running computer show, Sound Bytes, on member-supported Jazz 90.1. Get online now. Call 966-JAZZ. That's 966-5299. Toll-free 800-790-0415. Or submit your question by email at soundbytes.org. Once again, here's Nick Francesco, Dave Enright, and Steve Ray on member-supported Jazz 90.1.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Nick Francesco.
I'm Steve Ray.
And I'm Michael Oden.
And at 3 minutes after the hour, you're hurtling headlong into the second hour of the longest-running computer show in the known universe. It's Sound Bytes right here on the truly great and solely member-supported Jazz 90.1. And you can join us here online. Just give us a call, 585-966-JAZZ. That's 966-5299. Or if you are outside the 585 area code, you can give us a call at 1-800-790-0415 on our toll-free line. That'll be good. And here we go. Speaking of Microsoft updates, Microsoft did in fact release one of its biggest security updates this year, fixing 50 vulnerabilities in its products and 26 more in Flash Player, which is still bundled with its Edge browser.
It's one program. How can there be 26 errors in it?
It's Flash. 26 is a very low number. I look at 26, right? I look at 26 and think they missed some.
Yeah.
The patches are split into 14 security bulletins, 7 of which are rated critical. They address vulnerabilities in Windows, Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, Microsoft Exchange, Microsoft Office Web Services, Flash, and apps. That is to say, everything you run. For desktop deployments, people should prioritize the fixes for Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, Office, Graphics, Microsoft Graphics Component, OLE automation for VB scripting engine, and Adobe Flash Player. That's because these vulnerabilities can be exploited to achieve remote code execution by tricking users to visit compromised websites or to open specifically crafted files. These are 2 of the most common infection vectors used in malware attacks. One of the Internet Explorer and Edge vulnerabilities could be used for information disclosure in an exploit chain. Microsoft notes in its advisory that although this vulnerability has not been publicly disclosed, it has been exploited. It is a 0-day vulnerability. People were using it before anybody knew about it. So although it's not been disclosed, it's actually been exploited. The company did not, however, provide any more information about the attacks leveraging it. The security update for Silverlight should also be prioritized, even though it's rated as only important rather than critical. The patched vulnerability could also lead to remote code execution if a user visits a compromised website that contains a specially crafted Silverlight application. On the server side, administrators should focus on the update for Microsoft Exchange, which patches critical vulnerabilities in Oracle outside-in technology. This is a collection of software development kits that can be used to extract, normalize, scrub, convert, and view unstructured file formats. Oracle released a patch for these flaws in July, and Microsoft has now imported those fixes. The Oracle OIT vulnerabilities can be exploited to achieve remote code execution. Again, that's the holy grail, by the way. If they can remotely execute code on your system, they win. By simply sending an email with a specially crafted attachment to a vulnerable Exchange server. The Office update should also be on server administrators' radar because it applies to Microsoft SharePoint Server 2007, 2010, and 2013. And the flaws it covers could allow attackers to take complete control of such servers by using the Word and Excel automation service. Server administrators should also look at the update for Microsoft Graphics Component, which affects Windows servers, and an MS 16-110, which applies to Server 2008 and 2012 and allows attackers with domain user accounts to create a specially crafted request, causing Windows to execute arbitrary code with elevated privileges. So, did you update? How did it go? Give us a call, 585-966-JAZZ. That's 966-5299, toll-free 1-800-790-0415.
We always say you should run the updates as often as you can, but wait a week, maybe. Let someone else come out with the problems first. In fact, with the iOS 10 update that came out on Tuesday, by Tuesday afternoon, 10:01 had come out to fix some of those bricking problems.
Right. There was, and that's, I think, an important consideration. When you have critical updates, the impulse is to do it immediately. And that's not a bad impulse at all, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But when you have so many updates covering so many things, it's never a bad idea to let somebody else be the pioneer and let you have a little downtime before you actually do the installation.
Yep. And the day it's announced, especially this was a big anticipatedly waited. No, I can't. You're rubbing off the highly anticipated release of iOS 10. I'm guessing there were 100 million, 200 million people downloading. It's a gig and a half. No matter how many caching servers they have all over the world, it's not enough. And I was hearing complaints about how slow it was to download. Yes, you and 100 million other people are trying to download this file. And there was also watchOS and tvOS. All were released on the same day.
Right.
So it's going to be slow. Wait a couple of days and it will come down really fast. Or let it run overnight. But I guess you have to be on the bleeding edge of everything, right?
Well, I did wait, and it still took, and I'm on green light, and it still took about an hour and a half to download.
Yeah. So maybe there were only 50 million people doing it.
Yeah, right. Right. So I knew it wasn't my connection. It was clearly the other end.
And they're using Akamai. If you look into the URLs, they're using Akamai, which is the best caching server on the internet.
Right. Right. But yeah, so definitely make sure you stay up to date. And as always, for heaven's sake, before you do an update, do a backup. I can't say that enough times. I cannot say that enough times. Before you do an update, do a backup. If you're doing automated backups, as we spoke of earlier with Larry, then you absolutely are okay. But if you're not doing automated backups, at the very least, before you do an upgrade, do a backup. All right, back to the phones. Our next caller is Paul from Brighton, New York. What's up, Paul?
Yeah, I've got two questions. First, I'm getting these dialog boxes that keep popping up saying, on the top, it says compressed zip folder. Please insert the last disk of the multi-volume set and click OK to continue. I can cancel it and get rid of the box, but then it comes back again after a little while.
I have not seen that particular.
That's like a flashback from the 90s right there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Back in the olden days, you used to have to install software on multiple floppy disks.
Right.
And then someone figured out that you could zip each floppy disk and send the zip files down on one CD. So something you installed recently is looking for the next zip file in the
I'm
in the
running
list.
Windows 10.
What have you installed recently?
Windows 10.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Windows 10 itself. Something is looking for that compressed zip folder, but now you're again back to detective work. I don't know what to tell you. You might be able to look at the task manager.
Okay.
Right. If you right click on the button bar at the bottom and then look at task manager, you may be able to look at the running tasks and figure out which one that is. But I don't know what else to tell you beyond that.
And it doesn't give you the name of the thing it's trying to install.
Yeah, up in the blue bar, it doesn't give you
nothing like that. Just the words that I just told you. And I never saw this before when I was running Windows 7. Never saw it before.
Right.
I've never used what they call here a multi-volume set. Just something I hadn't seen before. Okay. My second question is, I got this email from a nationally known computer savant. You've all heard of her. And anyway, she forwarded this.
The word savant threw me, but go ahead.
Anyway, she, as part of her routine email thing, this thing is called Spark Trust, which she recommends that you install.
Spark Trust?
Yes, but I've seen things on the web that suggest it might be malware. It's supposedly a utility to help get rid of programs that are slowing down your computer.
My guess is it's a fake email using her name trying to get you install this malicious software.
I guess that's a possibility.
Yeah, it may not have been her at all, but I will tell you, I run a program. I run an add-on in my web browser called Web of Trust, WOT. And what it does is for every link in my page, it puts a little circle, a green one if it's good, a yellow one or a gray one if it's unknown, and a red one if it's malicious. And everything for Spark Trust is red.
Yep. Although
everything.
If you go to their website, they say they're expert in virus removal software and they're a Microsoft partner.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I can copy that.
Yeah, I can copy that logo too. Yeah.
Yeah. And Vladimir Putin says he's an honest guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So basically, I would suggest that you delete that email with extreme prejudice.
Okay.
There's a lot of those cleaning programs that are out that claim to clean up your computer.
Yeah.
And at a worst, they do nothing. No, I guess at best they do nothing.
Right. At best they do nothing.
Yeah, at worst, they'll steal your money and sell your credit card information to other people.
Yeah. Yeah. They look so professional, though. I could give them credit for their graphics, interface and appearance.
Oh yeah, they've got the best people. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thanks for the tip again.
All right. Thank you. And well done by being a little bit cautious there.
Yeah, I've been burned before. Things like this. Thank you.
Yep.
Right.
Thanks. And for the rest of you, that's a little moral lesson. Don't trust it just because it came in email. Even if it came from somebody you think you know.
We sort of, it's frustrating because you can't trust any message that appears on your computer. You don't know if it's legitimate or not.
Right.
And so it becomes dangerous. So people are ignoring messages they should acknowledge. Windows update found a problem, you need to update. Okay, how is that different from the fake Windows update message or the fake Flash update message? It's very, very difficult now. And there's been a surge recently in fake phone calls. People calling you from tech support, at Apple or Microsoft or Google and saying there's a problem on your computer. I've been reading these cute stories about people who see how long they can string them along.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's terrible. Okay. What should I do? Go to the start menu. What's that? It says start on. Oh, I have to turn my computer on.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'll tell you what. It's an interesting issue. I must say the Security Tango is clearly getting more popular.
Yeah.
Because I get Google alerts for Security Tango, and I'm seeing the name pop up on all kinds of places, and they all start out with Security Tango. It's my name for the dance you do, blah blah blah. So it's clearly my front page, And so I go there, and it's some site in Russia or Croatia or something.
You're so popular, people are usurping your site.
Exactly.
You've made it.
I made it. Thank you. But you know, I'm pretty sure I know where the security tango is and what it is and what's on it because it's my site.
Yep.
So you know, if I see those things, I know to go. Yeah, that's no. But somebody else might say, "Oh, I've heard of this security tango. My friend told me I should." Well, I'll click on that.
Yeah.
So it's
why is it all in Russian?
Yeah, right, exactly.
You know, a couple of years ago, it was Norton or McAfee. You know, the big, well-known antivirus program names were being usurped by the bad guys. So instead of Norton Antivirus, it was Antivirus Plus, and or something like that. So now nowadays you've joined the ranks of the big guys.
I have. I'm
Yeah.
very excited. I'm very, very excited by this. Not so much as you might think, actually. No.
I'm still digging into the previous caller's multi-compressed zip file, and one of the things that people have reported is that they unplugged a USB flash drive without ejecting it, and get that type of message because the system wants that flash drive back.
Oh, interesting.
So when you, Mac or Windows, when you have a flash drive or any drive for that matter, on Windows, you must use the safely remove hardware button. And on the Mac, you must use the eject button to tell the computer you're done using it before you physically unplug it from the computer. If you just unplug it from the computer doesn't necessarily know it's gone yet. And in many cases, you get an error message about the device was unmounted improperly.
Right.
And you can actually damage the files on that device by just unplugging it because they may not have been fully written yet. One of the ways that USB drives work is they kind of hold things in queue, waiting to see if you're going to change them again before they finish writing them to the disk.
Right. Back in the day when computers were much slower.
And you had 16K of RAM.
Right. They would cache all of the things you were going to send out to the flash drives and only do it when the machine was idle because it took so much of the processing power. Nowadays, it's unnoticeable, but nobody rewrote the things all over again. So basically, I have watched people pull flash drives out of a computer while the little red light was on.
Yeah.
That tells me right there that drive is no longer good.
And then ignore the message that says you did it wrong.
Yep.
Well, it's never hurt before. You have been really, really lucky.
Exactly. And you're done now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that's certainly a possibility then. If you plug that drive back in, maybe it'll take it. I would think if you rebooted the system, that would do it. But might not. If there's a program waiting to actually do something, it may be stuck in queue.
Can you look to see somewhere what programs are set? Yeah, there's there's a registry entry.
Right.
You can see what programs are waiting to run at launch. So at a minimum, you can go to your start menu and in
the task manager on Windows 10, there's a startup tab.
Right. You can see what programs are set to start up, and it might be in there.
Right. All right. We're going to take a quick break. Back in just a couple of minutes with Steve Ray, Michael Oden, me, Nick Francesco, and you. It's 20 minutes after the hour. It's Sound Bytes. It's the truly great and solely member-supported Jazz 90.1.
Online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at soundbytes.org. More with Nick Francesco, Dave Enright, and Steve Ray next on member-supported Jazz 90.1.
I'm a retired school psychologist, and helping people was my thing. After my stroke, when Meals on Wheels started, I was on the other end of the stick, so to speak. My name is Julius Gaines, creative writer, poet, photographer.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
As a Jazz 90.1 listener, you have the ability to leave a lasting gift to the jazz community. By making a planned gift, you can support Jazz 90.1 for many years to come. For more information, contact your financial advisor or call 585-966-2660. You can also find out more about planned giving by visiting www.jazz901.org.
Hi, this is Rick Petrie.
Please join me Tuesday nights from 9 to midnight for North Star Sounds on member-supported Jazz 90.1.
Follow Jazz 90.1 on Facebook at facebook.com/Jazz901FM.
62% of medications purchased online are fake, and many contain toxic ingredients like antifreeze, floor wax, and house paint.
You're kidding, right?
They're toxic. It's something that humans should not be eating or drinking.
I want to take medication to stay healthy, not make me a lot sicker.
The good news is you can be sure your online pharmacy is safe if you see .pharmacy in its web address.
So if I see .pharmacy,
It's legit. Learn more at safe.pharmacy, a public service from NABP.
Here's the latest Jazz 90.1 weather forecast.
Windy and sharply cooler across Rochester, Western New York, and the Finger Lakes for the day today, with changeable amounts of clouds and sunshine. The high temperature into the middle and upper 60s over the Bristol Hills, closer to 70 in Rochester. As we head through the night tonight, the sky clearing, and it turns quite cool into the upper 40s in some valleys, low 50s in town. Sunshine warming up with less wind on Monday, highs in the upper 70s. I'm meteorologist Josh Nichols for Jazz 90.1.
And it is 77 degrees at the Greater Rochester International Airport, 78 here in Greece at member-supported Jazz 90.1.
Hi, this is Jeff Harris. Join me every Sunday night from 5 to 7 on member-supported Jazz 90.1.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Nick Francesco.
I'm Steve Ray.
And I'm Michael Oden.
And at 23 minutes after the hour, we are Sound Bytes. Some iPhone users reported that they were flummoxed by iOS 10, which failed to install, crippled their devices, and sent them on a hunt for a Mac or PC armed with iTunes. I updated my iPad Pro 9.7 and iPhone 6S, and both devices now requested to connect to iTunes, wrote DJ Tame or DJ Tame, who knows? I don't care. When a message posted to Apple support forum, once connected, I got a message that an error had occurred and then restore was necessary. It reverts back to iOS 9.3.5. Another customer was a lot hotter under the collar. This is absolute garbage, Apple, said B. Mattify in a different thread in the same discussion forum. Now when I connect my phone to iTunes, it says it cannot connect to upgrade server. Thanks, Apple. You know, before I switched over to an Apple phone, I had my fair share of problems with Android, but it never, ever completely botched its own upgrade.
That's because there are no upgrades for Android phones.
Right. iOS 10 just totally hosed my iPhone. It's going to be wiped, wrote another unhappy upgrader. Reports of failed over-the-air upgrades were even more widespread on social media, with the Apple support account on Twitter flooded with complaints, many of which were not polite enough to read on the air.
Yep.
We're currently looking further into this issue, Apple support tweeted shortly after 11:30 a.m. on Tuesday, Pacific time on Tuesday. Apple support also directed customers to a page on the firm's website that spelled out how to connect an iPhone or iPad to a Mac or PC to restore the previous version of iOS. Apple said it had identified and fixed the problem, at least for those who had not yet tried to upgrade. We experienced a brief issue with the software update process affecting a small number of users during the first hour of availability, an Apple spokesrobot said. The problem was quickly resolved. Anyone who was affected should connect to iTunes to complete the update or contact Apple Care for help, improperly using the term contact. Upgrade problems are not new or rare for Apple. A year ago, Apple rushed out iOS 9.0.1 to fix several bugs, including one that prevented some from installing the new operating system, which had been released just the week before. And in February, Apple reissued iOS 9.2.1 to fix an error that crippled iPhones whose owners had replaced some parts themselves or had a third-party shop do repairs. Apple support's Twitter account is perhaps one of the fastest ways to ask for assistance, although actually getting assistance will take longer. So how did your upgrade go? Give us a call, 585-966-JAZZ. That's 966-5299, toll free 1-800-790-0415. And that goes right back to what you said earlier about don't be first.
Yep. Don't be first. Just because the update's out there doesn't mean you have to do it right now. Let someone else, especially a big update like this, major changes. When the first digit changes, it's huge.
Right.
Second digit's not so big. Third digit is a fix.
Yeah. Yeah.
And fourth digit we never read about.
Yeah, right. They just roll those up into third digit fixes anyway.
Yeah, when people pay a lot of money for these Apple products, they expect Apple to give them, good service.
Unbelievable.
And when
isn't it?
Apple done goofs like they done goofs this time, there are issues.
And we've said before, you can't test every system and you can't test every configuration, but something this big should have been better tested.
And that's one of the reasons I do the public betas. And actually, Tim Cook said that in a interview a couple weeks ago. Was I think iOS 8 where Apple Maps replaced Google Maps and the map data was terrible and people were
driving off cliffs yeah.
Well, don't pay that close attention to your GPS.
Just because the GPS says turn left, don't believe there's a magic Indiana Jones invisible bridge off the cliff.
But because of that problem and the public outrage, Apple started doing public betas. So people that wanted to could download the beta version and report bugs. And it's interesting that there were still these problems with all the millions of people. And that's the problem. There were millions of people in the public beta. There's hundreds of millions of people downloading it.
Right. Oh, I get it. I do get it. But it just, it's when it's this egregious, you would think somebody caught it somewhere. Particularly since within an hour they had a fix.
Right.
Well,
and then the other side of it, I'm coming from a service standpoint, they told you what to do to fix it.
Yeah. Well, the problem is a lot of people don't use iTunes or aren't anywhere near into their iTunes machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I'm
okay, if you're going to install a major update on your OS, be at home.
Well, but to be fair to them, this is Apple. Apple says they're perfect.
Yeah.
So why should they have to worry about that? Yeah. The reality is Apple is not perfect. I hope you were sitting down. I hope you weren't driving. And
all the times they've had problems like this, people still expect perfection from them.
Absolutely. Well, Apple plays themselves up as being perfect, and that's their image.
Yeah, and they charge the prices that kind of, suggest perfection or close to.
That's exactly right. When I get a problem with my Android OS, essentially that was free. Okay, I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. And I'm more willing to say they'll fix it and they'll get around to it, whatever. And I've paid $300 for the phone, and it's fine. But when you pay $1,000 for a phone, and suddenly it's now just a brick, that's an issue.
Yeah,
that's an issue that people are going to have, and I get that. I truly do. And Apple just has to learn to live with that because they tout themselves as perfect and charge prices as if they're perfect. So when they're not perfect, they got to take the hit. That's the way that works. But I agree that Steve is absolutely right. You should not be first. Wait an hour, wait a day, whatever it takes.
And as we said, make a backup. So you should have been at home and backed it up to your computer anyway.
Right. This wasn't one of those updates that you don't get a choice of, right? I mean, it's not. It didn't automatically install. You had to initiate the installation.
Yep. It'll tell you it's available, and then you have to download it and install it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yes. Then yes. Then you don't have an excuse. And I suspect there are people who don't run iTunes.
True. Free download for Mac and Windows, though.
Right.
So
it is a free download.
If you do need to install it, you can.
Right. But there are people who don't have one.
Right.
So I get that they would have an issue. There are people who don't have, who live on their phones and probably haven't booted their computers up in a while.
That's their only computing device now.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to live without iTunes.
Yes.
Because you don't have a machine that runs iTunes.
Yeah.
And if you go to somebody else's machine to run iTunes, how do you set that up? Well,
Yeah, because it's going to want to erase your phone to sync it to their computer.
Exactly right.
Which, in essence, is what it has to do anyway. When it's bricked like that, it has to erase it.
I understand that, but now it's their computer. It's their phone.
Yeah.
So, how do you handle that? Apple is not terribly transparent about how that works. iTunes Yes, the iTunes iPhone connection just works until it doesn't.
Yep.
And then when it doesn't, it's a real problem. So I get it. I get it. It's but you know, if you've done the upgrade and it worked, you're in the vast majority, right? Let's not forget. You know, we hear most about the problems, and that's true of every operating system. There are 1 billion people in the world running an Android OS and never having any problems. There are 100 million people running Windows, running iOS, and not having a problem on 300 billion devices. But when there is a problem like this is what we hear about. We never hear about the no problems. We never hear about the it ran fine today. You know, if you put up, if you put up a news story that said, you know, 16 billion, whatever the number is, Android users had no problem today, you wouldn't get a lot of clicks on that.
Unless you have a Galaxy Note 7 and you're talking about how it didn't catch on fire today.
Yes,
then that's an entirely different situation. Well, my phone didn't catch on fire today, so you know.
Start a blog, and
Good
every
for
day
you.
it's just my phone did not catch on fire today. My IED disguised as a telephone.
Was that one of your news stories? They went beyond the we'll replace it for you, and now they have to actually do a recall.
Yeah, well, that's the United States has said, no, it's a recall.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one next time. But yeah, that's going to remain an issue for a while. And again, this entire thing for them is the problem. Of course, is they sealed the battery. They want to be Apple, right? So they sealed the battery in. My Galaxy S5 has a replaceable battery. I pop off the back, I pop out the battery, I pop in a new battery. It would have cost them what was the number? 1/25 of what it's going to cost them to replace the phones, or less, to just send out a bunch of batteries. Because that's the only problem. One of their suppliers had a battery problem. One. So, but they've got to replace all of those phones, as opposed to just sending everybody out a new battery.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you know, if it fits, it ships would have been real fast and real convenient. And I get a battery in the mail. I pop the back off my phone. I pop in the new battery. I take the old battery, and I don't know what I do with the old battery, but I don't recharge it. And Samsung has said that the way they're going to fix this until they can do the recall is they're sending out an update that will only let you charge the phone to 60%.
So you don't overcharge it.
So you can't overcharge it. So the problem apparently only happens when you charge the phone more than 60%.
Which means that there's a circuit in the phone to prevent overcharging that's not working.
It is possible that that is the problem. It is more likely that it is the battery itself, because on the other phones, this is not the issue.
Yeah. So
right?
it's a 2100 milliamp hour battery, but it's really only 15.
Right. Right. One of their suppliers, who I suspect is no longer one of their suppliers.
Probably so one of the cells. So most of these batteries have multiple cells in them.
Right.
And so probably one of the cells is failing. And so say there are 3 cells, the first 2 cells work, that's 60%.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And so, yeah, there's it's going to make some people angry because they have to do it to every phone, because they can't, you know, in an over-the-air update, they can't say only this phone from this manufacturer, because there's nothing that programmatically differentiates that phone internally from all the other phones, right? So it's a real issue in terms of.
Well, you would think that they would know the serial numbers of what phones have which batteries in them, or would be able to keep track of that somehow.
You certainly would, but if you had to send out an update that had 100 million serial numbers in it, it's an awfully big update. And now we're running up against their data caps again.
and they reply all instead of BCC.
Yeah, right. Right, and they put it all right in the
Right in the two line,
yeah. The other issue, of course, is when you're talking about updating the way most phones work, and this is something else the FCC is looking into, by the way. The way most of these phones work, Apple's update directly from Apple. For Android, they go through both Google's vetting and then the hardware manufacturer's vetting, and then the carrier vets it.
Yep.
And in general, that's of course so that each of them can add their own software and have a new revenue stream before it gets to you. And that's what we call bloatware. And that's what we call singing the blues. So any of these updates have to go through 3 vetting processes before they get to you. And frankly, my phone, for example, is behind on Android. I don't have the latest version of the Android OS on my phone. Nougat, I still have Marshmallow. And is that really a problem? Well, yes, because there are security fixes in Nougat that are not in Marshmallow. And Google is saying we're not going to separately send those out, just update the operating system because they're inherent to the OS, and it's it's easier to just update the OS. But until Verizon gets through with it and Samsung gets through with it, I don't get the update. And now the FCC is saying, well, you know what? That's all well and good, but now we're talking about security. And that means we're also talking about national security.
Yep.
So we want you to update these in a timely manner. That's why my next phone, I think, is going to be a Nexus phone. No, excuse me, a Pixel phone now. The rumor is that Google is going to change the name of their own brand of phone from Nexus to Pixel. Why? I don't know, but I suspect somebody else owns the copyright to Nexus.
Well, you remember Philip K. Dick's estate sued them because Nexus is the name of the replicants.
There you go.
But I think Google laughed that off way back then. Maybe they finally decided, no, we'll change our name.
Yeah, right. It's easier to change it than whatever. And they already had the Chrome Pixel.
Yeah.
And so now the phones will be called Pixels.
So it should be the Nexus Pixel.
Fine, then you're just going to get 2 people angry at you somehow.
Yeah.
But what we don't know, of course, is the Pixel Chromebook Pixel is a very high-end Chromebook, $1,000 Chromebook. The question is, will the Pixel phone also